Ghost of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm McKelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 71 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by Jeor Mormont. Today we're discussing chapter 70 of A Game of Thrones. That's Jon 9.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what's happened, we'll discuss our thoughts on it, provide you some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some reader mail. Be sure to check out the show notes, they'll help you track what's going along, particularly if you're not reading with us.
That they will.
How are you, McKelly Ray?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Hang on, do people know your surname? Is that out? Should I not have said that?
No, I think it's all right.
Okay.
I put on our Facebook and Instagram page yesterday a picture of my Christmas tree and fireplace and said it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in the Ray house. So they do now anyway.
Yeah. Word is out. Okay.
I'm pretty
Please
sure
don't
somewhere,
stalk him.
somewhere along the way we've referenced our names. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So Stacey doesn't like Indian food.
She is not a fan of Indian food. I honestly, she doesn't know if she's a fan of Indian food. She doesn't like the smell of curry and therefore refuses to try Indian food.
But she likes Thai food.
She likes Thai food.
Really?
Yeah.
It's the same. It's not
that
that different, really.
Yeah. So
when we first worked together, our boss came over to my house and we were talking about the fact that for breakfast cereal, I like bran flakes with raisins in it.
Uh-huh.
And Carson didn't
Could
like
that be
bran
Raisin
flake.
Bran?
Oh, Raisin Bran, yes. I mean, that would be kind of the name, yes.
Right.
That's the one I choose. Carson does not like raisins.
Uh-huh.
And so she was all... Right, Carson was always arguing that we should get non-raisin cereal because she doesn't like... But she doesn't eat cereal.
So what does she care?
Why should I compromise on the cereal I want if you don't eat it anyway?
In the off chance she decides this morning to have a bowl of cereal. She doesn't want to have to worry about raisins.
But she never did. I mean, just never. So like 4 times out of 5 she would get the raisinless cereal and I'd be like, okay. Plow my way through that on my own.
I tell you what, the things we have to deal with around this place.
I know, that does sound like a first world problem now I think about it.
Raisins or no raisins. So Stacey dragged me out of my little sheltered home that I have here because I never leave the house. She had me go to the grocery store with her today. So first time I've been out of the house in days. She was making fun of me. She was like, "That's the sun over there." And it was really cold. I was like, whoa! It
was cold.
Who knew it was so cold out here? So,
for those who live in the United States, you'll know what day it is. It's the day of the nor'easter, right?
Yes.
Nor'easter. Yeah, so that's why it was cold today.
Yeah, we didn't get any snow or anything. We just got a lot of rain. But Pittsburgh got like 5 to 7 inches.
Did it really?
Huh? Yeah, it's not a whole lot for Western PA, but down here it would shut the place down for a week.
Yeah. Was it? We became a meme on the internet, didn't we, when we had like 1.5 inches. And they had Imperial walkers walking down Glenwood Avenue.
That picture is fantastic. It is. Yeah, it's right next to the Angus barn. Is that hill going up next to the Angus barn?
Yeah.
There's like a car on fire. There was literally a car on fire. That wasn't even made up.
But it's 1 inch of snow, and the place just looks like absolute desolation,
chaos. Now,
but that was
if they even hint, if the weather folks even hint at snow, the whole town just shuts down preemptively.
But you know that day, the Imperial Walker Day, that wasn't even the worst day. The worst day was the one way back when we first knew each other. That was the really bad one.
The ice. Where
the ice one.
All we got was ice, and it shut down. It gridlocked the city for.
Oh yeah.
People were stranded in their cars on roads and stuff. It was terrible.
We had our son with us who was a year old, so he was in diapers, and we had no spare diapers, and it took us 10-mile drive. It took us 6.5 hours to get home.
You went to go get diapers, and it took 6.5 hours.
We were coming home from work, but we had the baby, and we didn't have a spare diaper, and it took us 6.5 hours to drive home.
Oh my goodness!
And my only regret, we walked the last mile, and my only regret was we didn't walk the last 2.5 miles because
save yourself 2 hours.
Exactly, we were so much faster walking than we were in the car.
A lot of people.
But we had the baby, so I had my jacket like zipped up over him and sort of walking through the snow. People, obviously, I'd never seen as many people walking because everyone had abandoned their cars, and so people were very concerned for me. But I was like, if I fall, I'll land on him. I got pen.
Oh, shoot.
I'd forgotten all that stuff. Well, there you are. We had thunder the other day, and Carson assures me that means we're going to have snow within 10 days.
Okay.
That's the rule of thumb down here. Right. I heard someone else say it the other day.
Yeah.
But I don't know where it comes from.
I was sitting in this exact spot when the thunder happened, and I didn't hear the thunder, but I knew that it happened because Penny was by my feet, and she immediately started shaking, shivering, trying to climb up on me. And I was like, was there thunder? Because that's her thunder reaction. And sure enough, Molly came down and said, Dad, did you hear that thunder? Anyway.
All right. We got quite a lot of notes for this. Well, let's get down to business, mister.
All right, let's do it.
So let's get down to business with a quick recap of what Jon was up to last time we saw him. Last time we saw Jon, he was recovering from the burns he'd received in saving Jeor Mormont from the White. He was learning the news of Ned's capture and Robb's calling the banners to Winterfell. As he weighed the loyalty to his family and to his oath, he spoke with Maester Aemon and discovered that this was none other than Aemon Targaryen, great-great-uncle of our Daenerys. McKelly, why don't we give them the summary of this one?
Okay. Jon nearly rides down Sam on his way out of Castle Black. He's decided that breaking his newly minted oath to the Night's Watch isn't as important as joining his brother Robb in the Riverlands to avenge his father's execution. As he rides south, he thinks of the sting Lord Commander Mormont will feel over this betrayal, as the old bear is still feeling the effects of his son Jorah's betrayal. Following Jorah's lead, Jon did leave Longclaw behind.
Despite riding from Castle Black with such gusto, Jon is struggling with his decision. He thinks it's the right move, but wonders why then does he feel so bad about it. He imagines his life going forward as a Night's Watch deserter. He'll need new clothes soon, or he'll never make it as far as the neck. He'll also be an outcast. Well, he'll make it exactly as far as the neck. That's the problem.
Right. Yeah.
He'll also be an outcast for
Good one.
Took you a second, but you got it.
Yeah, I got it.
He'll also be an outcast for the rest of his life, so much so that even stopping at Winterfell is out of the question. He'll be a motherless, friendless, oath-breaking bastard who's damned.
Yeesh. Aside from that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? That's a rough one there. Doesn't have a whole lot going for him.
He could tell people he didn't take the oath yet.
He could.
He's not been up there that long.
Right.
It's not like they branded him.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's not like they know a timeline. Like, well, it's been 3 months.
Yeah.
Who knows with Alistair Thorne? Anyway. So Jon tries to focus on his reunion with Robb as we try to focus on this summary of this chapter. How Robb will be pleased to see him and smile. However, all he sees is the scene of Garrett's beheading after he was brought to Ned for breaking his oath. Jon thinks it would surely have been different if it was Benjen who had broken his oath, and so Robb too will welcome Jon to his side. After riding through Molestown, Jon stops to eat. As he finishes, he hears men approaching on horseback in hides.
The men turn out to be his friends. Seems that Sam woke them and told them of Jon's desertion. They hear Jon's horse whinny and quickly surround him, outnumbering him 7-1. The boys take turns reciting lines from the Night's Watch oath as they close in on Jon. Eventually he capitulates and returns to Castle Black without a struggle, thinking all the while that he'll bide his time and leave again when they don't expect it.
Jon slides into his daily routine, bringing Lord Commander Mormont his breakfast. Mormont reveals that he knows of Jon's excursion, saying Maester Aemon told him Jon would go, and adding that Mormont told Aemon Jon would be back. Jon is prepared for death, but Mormont says if they beheaded every boy who rode to Molestown, there'd be no one left to man the wall. The old bear points out that Jon isn't the only one affected by the war. Mormont's own sister likely rides for battle with Robb.
Mormont points out that their war against the Walking Dead takes precedence over the war in the Riverlands. He tells Jon that rangers are reporting odd sightings beyond the wall, and that he plans to ride in force north to deal with whatever they find, be it Manst Raider, the king beyond the wall, others, or anything else. He wants Jon to squire for him, but wants Jon's word on whether he plans to leave again. Jon steals his resolve and tells Mormont he is his man. He won't run again. So, that's how the chapter ends. But I'd just like to say that the notes actually were kind of contentious here at the end, because I read what I thought he did. I thought he steeled his resolve and said, "No, I'm going to stay with you, Lord Mormont." But in your original draft of the notes, it said it was out of a sense of adventure and excitement about going north of the wall. And I'm not sure that's fair on Jon,
I don't know. He was awfully passionate about leaving to go be by his brother's side. And then Mormont was like, "But we're going north of the wall." And he was like, ooh, I'll go. I'm your man. I'm your man.
But actually, in that moment where he's forced to make that decision, to make that pledge, what he thinks about is not, well, it would be nice to see the north in the winter. He actually thinks, "I'm really sorry, Arya. I'm really sorry, Sansa. I'm really sorry, Robb." He thinks about the siblings that he's letting down by not breaking his oath.
He does. He does think about them. But whether he's thinking about them because he's like, "Sorry, guys, I'm going north of the wall." No,
it's just not cold enough here.
Mormont did make some good points. I'm just not sure that you can talk your way through a point with a teenager.
Yes, good point.
So
right at the start of the chapter, Sam tries to, we skipped over it a little bit, but Sam tries to argue with Jon and say, "Please don't leave, you've made an oath, they're going to come for you." And Jon tries to ride him down with his horse.
That he does.
Sam says, "I won't let you." And Jon says, "I'm pretty sure I know Sam, and he's going to get out of the way of this horse."
Right.
And sure enough, he does. And I think it's a little bit cold of a friend to use your cowardice against you.
Yeah.
But then again, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, that's not really cowardice.
No, I mean, it's logical.
If you stand in front of a horse, you're going to get trampled.
Right, yeah.
It's not cowardly to get out of the way of the horse. It's stupid to not.
I think if the roles were reversed, I think Jon would have moved out of the way too.
Right.
Or else you're going to likely die.
Especially because that horse would have extra momentum with Sam aboard.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
And actually, I'll mention that scene when we get to the TV as well, because it's notable in the TV show what happens in that scene as well.
Okay. I noticed something at the very beginning of this chapter too. Jon is flexing his burned hand, and it says he's opening and closing his scarred fingers. And I thought, you know who else has scarred fingers? His cat. They finally have something to talk about when he makes it to the Riverlands. They can maybe bond over their, scarred
High
fingers.
five, high four.
Yeah, they could do that thing where they put their hands, like their hands together. Maybe that they can finally come together.
I think so. I think you found something. Or maybe it's more symbolic than that. This is kind of like they have a shared pain.
Right.
Which actually they do in many respects, because I think the biggest pain in Kat's life, until the book started anyway, the biggest pain in Kat's life was Jon Snow.
And the biggest pain in Jon Snow's life
parentage.
Right, yeah.
And the biggest pain in Jon Snow's life was also Jon Snow's parentage.
Oh, yes, I like that. Mm-hmm. And now they're also both sharing the pain of Ned's demise.
Well, that's very true, very true. So Jon leaves the new sword that the old bear gave him, Longclaw, behind. He doesn't want to be worse than the slaver Jeor Mormont. I'm an oath breaker.
Yeah, lofty goals there. I don't want to be worse than the slaver.
But I mean, seriously, you're breaking your oath. You might as well take the sword. You're bringing your oath to go and fight.
Right? Yeah. You might need it.
Once they catch you, they can bring the sword back to Jeor Mormont.
In fact, he'd probably be doing Jeor a favor, because he says in this chapter he figures Lord Commander Mormont will find someone more worthy to give the blade to. That someone may very well be Daisy Mormont, his niece, who is with Robb. So he goes to the Riverlands, joins up with Robb. They chop his head off. They can just give the sword to Daisy right there on the spot.
Brilliant. Valyrian sword. Anybody want a Valyrian sword?
It's got a wolf's head. It used to have a bear's head. Anyway.
That's right, yeah, he changed the head, right. So maybe they wouldn't recognise it. Maybe Daisy wouldn't recognise it. She'd
Maybe.
be like, it looks a bit like the old ceremonial sword of the Mormonts, but...
That's a wolf.
That's a wolf.
Rob would be like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So
Jon feels bad that this desertion will be salt in the wound that Jeor Mormont is already suffering from the desertion of his son.
Yeah, if this went through, he might want to re-examine his protege selection process because he'd be 0 for 2 at this point.
He didn't really select Jorah.
No, but he did go off to the Night's Watch without... no one really knows why. You know, he was Lord of Bear Island. He went to the Night's Watch. Jorah became Lord of Bear Island and then disgraced him.
You look ready for this.
Yes.
No, I'm not.
Nope.
Yeah.
Not at all. So Jon says that he's going to have to very soon change clothes because wearing all black anywhere north of the neck is met with some serious suspicion. And I thought, I know a place he can get clothes from. There's a place right there in Molestown. Simon and McKelly's Pedantry. Brown cloaks. We've got brown cloaks.
For sale or trade.
But it did make me wonder. So there are wandering crows. We know Yoren, who's with Arya right now, is a wandering crow. We've also heard of Grenn. He was the one who brought the troops when Thorne had to boot some of these guys out of basic training because he had new recruits coming in. So we've not actually met Grenn, but we've heard his name anyway. But there's multiple wandering crows, and I wonder if that's something that they have to deal with because Sansa and Arya both have mentioned him wearing all black, like a member of the Night's Watch. So he must wear his garb all the time. And I wonder if people are like, hey, there's an Oathbreaker, cut his head off. And he's like, no, wait. I got a note right here.
Jon might want to remember this.
Yeah.
I am out recruiting.
That's right.
But it was interesting what Jon said about that. He said that any of the garments would be enough to have his head chopped off. It's like, does nobody in the North wear black anything? I mean, surely.
It's always cold in the North, and you're not supposed to wear black after Labor Day, right? So, no, you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day. Never mind. That's not going to work.
Black would soak up the heat of the sun. So
right.
You definitely want to wear black. It's not good for camouflage against the snow, though.
It is not at all. You wonder why Brothers of the Night's Watch wear all black. You know, they would stand out like sore thumbs. Maybe if the Kingsguard and the Night's Watch flipped their colors, maybe Sir Waymar would not have been seen by the others back in the prologue. They wouldn't have noticed him in his all white.
I will say, though, I would imagine that King's Landing, they have much better access to laundry services.
Yeah, they could keep those whites clean a lot easier.
Exactly. Yeah. At the wall, you know, it's some begrudging, snot-nosed kid.
Good point.
Better to just cut the, you know, let's go for black or frankly brown. That'll do. So Jon thinks about Aemon and the 3 tests of his vows. If you remember, while he was feeding the ravens, Aemon said that 3 times he'd faced a challenge to the honour of his vows, once as a youth, in his full manhood, and again when he was old. We speculated on what those 3 might be.
Yeah, we were thinking that maybe the one in his youth was when he was a student at the Citadel. Maybe he had to choose between becoming a maester versus the love of a woman. We're pretty sure the full manhood one is when he turned down being king of Westeros. That seems like a pretty big deal. He turned down that opportunity. And we're thinking that the one when he was old was during Robert's Rebellion, not going to help his Targaryen family out. But then, you know, I was thinking about what Jon is thinking here. I was thinking about what Jon was thinking. And, you know, maybe he could have a point that maybe Aemon was hiding behind these vows from other challenges that, you know, were life-altering and scary. You know, not everybody wants to be king, but, you know, maybe it was his duty to be king. But he, you know, hid behind the vow and says, no, I don't want to do that. I'm a Maester. I'm not going to give that up.
I think for Robert's Rebellion, at least, he was in his mid-70s. It's hard to imagine,
I think he gets a pass there.
Exactly. And it's hard to imagine him going, that is it. I've stuck it through thick and thin, but this is the thing I'm going to break my
Now I'm breaking my vows.
Right, exactly.
I just need Clytus to lead me.
Yeah, exactly.
Lead me to King's Landing, quickly.
I'm just taking him with me. I'm not breaking my own oath, just to be clear.
Of course, the other option is he also could very well be brave and strong to honor these vows instead of pursuing matters of the heart and glory. That one is the other side of the coin there, which you certainly can see as well.
Yeah, I think I have in my dotage, I have tried to think about people who make decisions and try to recognize that people make decisions for more than one reason.
Absolutely.
So, yes, there might be an element of him hiding behind his vows from raising to the throne. It'd be a lot easier to stay as a maester on the Night's Watch than it would be to be king of the Seven Kingdoms. But
right.
That might have played into it, but it isn't necessarily the primary reason. And it's I try to find myself not assuming the worst reason for someone's making a decision. I try to assume that even if that colours the decision, it's not the primary reason for it.
Right. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
It's a good way to look at things.
Well, I try. It's against my nature. Just to be clear. So Jon begins to have second thoughts about the reception he's going to receive when he does reach Robb. Just a suggestion here. You could put your toes in front of the fire at Castle Black and have these second thoughts.
Right.
Instead of riding on through Molestown. Because...
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, best case scenario, Jon gives you a stay of execution to help him fight.
Right. Yes. You can help me fight, but as soon as it's over, sorry. Right. I love you and all, but you did break your vow.
And maybe he sends him back, so maybe that works out. But yeah, it's not easy for. I mean, how does Robb ever look another Oathbreaker in the eye if he allows this one to get away with it scot-free?
Solid point. Yeah, He thinks of himself as being condemned to be an outsider, silent man standing in shadows who dares not speak his true name. Wherever he goes, he would need to live a lie, lest every man's hand be raised against him. It's a little bit melodramatic, but, there's certainly there's certainly some truth to it. If he broke his vows, he would be on the run for the rest of his life. But how does he think he's going to help Robb avenge his father if he's constantly on the run and hiding? I don't think he thought that part through all the way, which, he's a teenage boy. That's not that unusual.
Yeah. So Jon can't visualize Robb's reaction. He's worried about it, but he can't visualize it. What he can visualize is the thing he saw when Ned beheaded Garrett.
Right.
That's probably easy for him to remember.
That's sticking in his mind right now. Yeah. But I started thinking about that. That was way back in chapter 1, the first Bran POV chapter.
Back when we were young.
Yes.
Coronavirus wasn't even a thing.
It wasn't. You were sitting right here next to me. The good old days.
That's right, yeah.
And I started thinking, should Ned have beheaded Garrett? I mean, the members of the Night's Watch aren't involved in the politics of the realm, so maybe Ned should have held him until other brothers of the Night's Watch could come and get him, or at least ask Mormont, do you want to question him? Do you want to take care of this beheading? Instead of just chopping his head off the minute that they found him. They might be interested in hearing from Garrett about what happened to Sir Waymar Royce and Will and Garrett.
But we talked about this at the time, that Garrett did come back through the wall. He had an opportunity to talk to people.
Yeah, although we discussed that he may have gone through the Night Fort, through the...
That's right.
There's a secret door in the Night Fort.
Yeah.
But, Mormont told Tyrion that he can feel dark things stirring and that there have been whites sighted by Eastwatch by the sea. And he seems, obviously, even before seeing the whites himself, he seemed open. White. Yeah, seemed open to listening to these ideas. So maybe if they had gotten Garrett back to Castle Black, they could have calmed him down gotten him to explain what he saw, it might have at least saved Ben and other rangers from going out there unprepared. At least they might have had a little bit to go on, you know?
How does this chapter end? They're all going out there now, you know? And now they know what the danger is and they're going out there. Jon does wonder what Ned would have done if the deserter had been Benjen. It's a good thought experiment. What would he do?
Right. Based on what we've learned about Ned to this point, the keeping of the little cuddly direwolf pups, having the statues of his brother and sister built in the crypts when he wasn't supposed to. Big old soft Ned, I just can't see him killing his little brother for deserting. I just don't see it.
That is a strand of Ned Stark. I'm not sure it's the predominant strand.
You're right. You're right.
There are other aspects of him.
Absolutely.
He's a little stiff.
He
is now. In fact, he's a littler stiff than he expected to be because he's like a headshot.
He did take Garrett's head off without. You know, I'm sure he felt bad about it, but he did it. But
you know what? I think he would send him back
and let the Night's Watch do what they.
And let the Night's Watch deal with it, because I don't think he could bring himself to do it. It kind of depends what the note said. If the note said, you know, your brother has deserted,
right? Then
he might. But if it was there's a deserter, capture him, and he captured him, and it was Benjen, it might be like,
what do I do now?
I think he would have sent him back because I think he would hope that by sending him back, exactly what is happening now to Jon would have happened to Benjen. Basically, hey, you shouldn't be deserting. You swore an oath. Make me a promise now, and I'll let this one go.
I had that same thought about Garrett when I was reading this chapter. Because Garrett's been a brother of the Night's Watch for 40 plus years. Man, no latitude for, like, there's no grace there for 40 years of service. Like, okay, there was your one time. Don't do it again.
Just wanted to dip my toes in the ocean one time.
I guess if taking the black can get you out of a murder conviction, death sentence, they got to keep those vows pretty serious.
Yeah, I guess so.
Although Benjen does have he seemed to have had pretty good latitude to come and go as he pleased. You know, he went to Winterfell.
Why desert to Winterfell when you can just go to Winterfell? Yeah.
Right. He was there for Robert's arrival. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to pop down to my old ancestral home for a bit. So Jon thinks to himself he's no true Stark, but he can die like one. And he says, thanks, let them say Eddard Stark had 4 sons and not 3. And to me, that thought sums up a lot of Jon's issues right there. I think if he were a true-born son of Ned Stark and in the Night's Watch, I think he might be less likely to desert. Because
he doesn't have anything to prove.
Yes, I feel like a lot of his issues are due to his feelings of inadequacy for being a bastard.
Yeah, that's... you know what? I actually think that's uncontestable. I believe that's exactly true.
Yeah.
Because a true-born son would have joined the Night's Watch comfortable in his decision, you know?
Right. Yes. Whereas Jon feels the need to prove how much his father means to him, despite being natural born. You know, he needs to prove that he's Ned's son, since it's less obvious than the other Stark boys because he's not a Stark.
Yeah.
Although, in this same paragraph, he does remember Rickon. He says 4 sons instead of 3. So
that's true. He didn't say 3 instead of 2. That's a good point.
But then at the end of the chapter, when he's reaffirming his vow to Mormont, he says, "Forgive me, Father, Robb, Arya, Bran." Now, of course, he forgets Sansa too, but he and Sansa don't exactly have a great relationship. But Rickon's got to be like, what does a boy got to do around here to get some respect?
But that's not bad. 50% for Rickon. That's pretty good. That's better than he normally gets. Remembered once, forgotten once. In fact, a true-born Stark would have forgotten him 100% of the time. It's all these baseborners who remember Rickon. So I was struck by the fact that Molestown is underground. I hadn't really thought about this, but Molestown is underground.
Right.
Hence the name.
Yeah.
They live like moles. And the prostitutes are known as hidden treasures or something.
Yeah, buried treasures. Yeah.
Yes, very nice.
We get so the way that the boys, Jon's friends, are tipped off to his presence hiding behind these trees is that Ghost comes out of the trees suddenly and kind of spooks his horse, and the horse whinnies. And it's just that alerts the boys, and it's just another example of these direwolves being more like spirit animals or moral compasses of the Stark children. They guide these Stark's kids. They feel the pain, like when the wolves started howling before the Raven got there with the news of Ned's death. And there's plenty of examples, like how Summer knew that Bran was in peril without any reason to know when Cat had to fight off that guy that was trying to kill him.
I actually put this down to Ghost just being noisy and clumsy.
It could be that too.
but Jon actually berates Ghost for betraying him.
Yeah.
Here, right?
Yes.
So the boys catch him, and he draws his sword on them, I think, doesn't he? Or at least he talks about it.
Yeah, he does, but his heart wasn't into it.
Yeah, and they just form a circle around him when they slowly tighten the circle, and of course he doesn't actually skewer them like he could.
Yes.
Even though he tells them that he could, comfortably, if he wanted to, and they all agree, yes, you could, but you're not going to, because you're our brother,
Yeah, I think it's Pip that takes the reins and says, you got two choices. You could kill me, or you could come back with me.
Good old Pip.
Yeah.
So then he goes back with them, and then he's forced to sort of face Mormont the next day. Now, of course, he's thinking Mormont doesn't know anything about this.
Right. Just going to keep on going. Yeah.
But the first thing Mormont says is, "You're looking very tired. How was your moonlight stroll? How was your moonlight ride?" And he's like, "Uh-oh."
Yeah.
And he reminds him that the things that we love are the things that will destroy us. This is one of the running themes around Jon.
Right.
His love for these things are the things that are going to bring him down. And we remember that Robert's love of hunting was one. And Jeor Mormont's love of
his lady wife.
His lady wife, who do we know her name?
Not yet. I mean, I do know her name, but we don't know her name in the show yet. Or in the book yet.
Yes, gotcha. Enough to sort of sell to poachers, so.
Yep. I feel like the insight that Jeor showed in this chapter, it makes me think that other things that we speculated on whether he was aware of, that he did know about, such as like Jon's idea to pass Sam through training before he got himself killed and make him Aemon's assistant, and the general mistreatment by Thorne of Jon and Sam. Now Thorne's gone, and Sam and Jon are still here. It made me think, he is paying attention to what's going on. He's aware. He's got his finger on the pulse.
Yeah, although as you know, I manage people, and some of the time I'm quite good at it, and some of the time I'm really hopeless at it. So maybe that's what's going on. Right. Mormont is partially good at his job and partially hopeless.
Yeah, that sums up a lot of us.
Yeah.
He says, "I know my men," and then he pauses for a second and says, "and boys," and I think he's insinuating this goes back to the whole green boy of summer thing, that Jon isn't a man yet; he's still a boy.
Yeah. So, do you agree with Mormont on the value of this great ranging? I mean, we've had discussions about this before. The wall is the barrier here.
Yep.
The Night's Watch just need to populate the wall. They don't need to be.
Yeah, there's a reason why it was built in the first place.
Right. So Mormont lists the things that are being seen north of the wall. Footprints of some huge beast that they don't know what it is. Vast migrations of elk and mammoth. And by the way, they know about mammoth, and this footprint has got them scared. So it must be something quite spectacular.
Right.
Fires in the mountains that burn all night. All a bit spooky, but is it worth abandoning the castles and the comparative safety just to find out about this stuff? You already know the dead are rising.
Right. So
that's enough information for me to stay put.
exactly, like taking all the things you just said, plus the fact that they know the dead are rising. This seems like a particularly good time to not lead a huge portion of the dwindling Night's Watch population north of the wall. Rather, possibly use the wall for its intended purpose, which is to keep that bad stuff on the other side of it.
Exactly. I mean, like, there's a very real chance you're actually going to swell the numbers of the army of the dead by sending your men out.
And diminish the numbers of your men.
It's not even a 1-for-1, it's a 2-for-1 issue here.
Right, yeah.
Every time we lose one, they gain one.
Yeah, although I was thinking that maybe those huge misshapen footprints might be the evidence of the giants that we've been expecting them to have discovered at some point. Could be giant footprints that we're seeing.
I hear you. You know Billy Connolly, who I really like.
Yeah.
He was talking in one thing about this. He saw, kind of like in the sort of cheap ads you see in the backs of magazines, he saw this one giant slipper. You bought this one giant slipper and you could put both feet in and keep warm. And he said that he bought 2 of them and put them by the back door. so someone walked in, he was like, ah! Look at the size of this guy.
Giant lives here.
So Mormont says, when the dead hunt in the night, does it matter who sits on the throne? And Jon rightly says, no.
Yeah, although it might. You could make an argument that it might. If Ned were the regent, he might be more inclined to send help. If the dead did, try and attack the wall and get over the wall, he might be more inclined to send help than Joffrey Baratheon. Because way back in Chapter 2, he was thinking of riding north to deal with Mance Rayder, as Lord of Winterfell. So he certainly has more respect for what's going on the other side of the wall than a Southron king might.
You are very true there. Very, very correct. Well done. That's a good point. But I think in the grand scheme of things, is what Mormont's really saying, that they need to fight this battle here. That's the one that really matters.
Yes, not the fighting that's going on in the Riverlands. That is less important to the Night's Watch, absolutely. Mormont also says that he's talking about why he thinks Jon was like destined to be a brother of the Night's Watch. And he says, your Lord Father sent you to us. Why? Who can say? I was like, I know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was because Kat said that she refused to have him in Winterfell when Ned went south with the king. I think that's the reason.
But Mormont focuses more on the Starks having the blood of the first men flowing through their veins, rather than just being punished by your stepmother who hates you.
Yes, and and the first men were the original creators of the Night's Watch, and that they remember things that others have, not others being the blue eyes,
others small o.
Yes, those others had forgotten. So he thinks that Jon and Ghost, because Ghost tipped them off about the Whites twice, have some sort of special connection to this whole thing, and he wants them with him when he rides in force north of the wall. Yeah,
that's reasonable. And then I see you've got more of a point about this, how Jon is excited about going north of the wall, and there are some exciting things there. Hopefully find his uncle Benjen. Right. There's a king beyond the wall to face down. There's the others who Jon's already killed. Well, no, sorry, Jon has killed a White, not an other.
Right.
But he's 1-0. So it does all sound rather exciting. But I do think, to be fair to Jon, that he's seen the error of his ways over the course of this, and particularly Mormont's speech, because what Mormont tells him here is very compelling, not just from this is more exciting than what you were planning to do, but from this is more important than what you were planning to do.
Yes, I think you're right. I was mostly joking, thinking about it from a teenager's perspective. Like, ooh, I'll do that. Forget about my brother, my father. This sounds really fun.
So to background.
So there wasn't a whole lot in background. I was kind of just trying to find some scraps that I could
Just
throw together
noodling.
here. Yes. So Mormont says to Jon, "Why would Robb need you? Are you such a mighty warrior? Do you have a grumpkin to magic up your sword and a grumpkin in your pocket to magic up your sword?" And we've talked about grumpkins and snarks.
That's why he was sent to the wall.
He's got a grumpkin
to get
in
a
his
grumpkin.
Well, we've talked about grumpkins and snarks in the past, but a little bit more on grumpkins is they're thought to grant wishes either by crafting magical objects, which makes your wishes come true, which I guess is what he'd be referring to here, or by directly giving people a number of wishes, of which the third wish is the last and must be used carefully.
For the third wish, I would wish for 100 more wishes.
Right.
Oh,
So-
I've also heard a joke where a guy asks for, he gets 2 wishes. With the first one, he asks for an everlasting bottle of Guinness. And he tries it and it works. And he's like, "Oh, that's great." He said, "My second wish, I'll have another one of those."
Not as smart as he thinks he is. Another piece of background that I put together here was that. So this is in regards to the vows. His friends basically recited the whole vow that
Vow again,
a brother of the Night's Watch takes when joining the Night's Watch. So there's a little background about that. In 10 AC, Aegon the Conqueror and his sister wife Visenya were attacked in the streets of King's Landing by a Dornish assassin during the First Dornish War. Because of this, Visenya suggested that Aegon establish a personal guard of 7 to protect him. Hence, the Kingsguard was born. Visenya modeled the vows taken by the Kingsguard on those of the Night's Watch, such as not owning lands, taking a wife, or fathering children. So, there you go.
For a second there, I thought we were heading in the other direction, that the Kingsguard, the Night's Watch, modelled on the Kingsguard, even though the Night's Watch is thousands of years old.
Right. Yes.
What you said makes a lot more sense. So, comparison with the television show, the scene with Jon and Sam is very much the same. Sam asks him not to go. Jon tells him to get out of the way. Sam says no, but then does. Jon driving the horse at Sam looks particularly cruel and unfriendly, I've got to say.
Really?
And yeah, I mean,
Like
not
he had malice in his eyes?
Not because of the malice in his eyes, just the nature of the act. When you see it, you're like, that's not very nice. You shouldn't do that to your friends.
Speaking of malice in eyes, this is absolutely unrelated to this, but one time Ethan was playing with the oldest daughter of friends of ours down the street, and they got into some trouble in the garage. They were messing around with something they shouldn't be messing around with. And Ethan came home crying. He was little. He was like 5, maybe. He came home crying, and we were like, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Mr. Randall told me to leave and never come back." And we were like, "Mr. Randall said that?" And he goes, "Well, he said it with his eyes." So every time I think of such a thing, we're always like, "He said it with his eyes."
Oh, so sweet. How old is he now?
He's 20. That was 15 years ago or so.
Ridiculous.
It is.
Yeah, no, it's just the fact of it. He just looks awful to run at someone when you're riding a horse.
Right.
The visual of it was worse than I read. When I read it in the book, I was like, yeah. But then when I saw it, I was like, you shouldn't have done that. No true friend would do that. We do not get in the TV show Jon's moonlight musings. Instead, basically, it's a chase. From the moment he leaves, there's a chase. He can hear horses behind him the whole time.
Oh, okay.
The chase goes until the leader of the people chasing him gets knocked off his horse by a low branch, and that's Sam. So Sam, because Sam isn't part of the chase in the book, is he?
No, he's not. He waits back at the stables.
Right. Yep. So it's just Sam, Pip, and Grenn in the show, and because Sam got knocked off his horse, Jon rides back to check that he's okay, and then they have him, and then they do all that guilt trip thing, and it works, and he rides back. The scene with Mormont is very, very similar. TV Mormont doesn't mention his sisters and nieces, which is a shame, actually. I like the fact that he mentions them in the book. he's less specific about Jon's use to the Night's Watch, no mention of his first men blood. And the scene actually ends with the full force of the Night's Watch heading north through the wall. So we do actually see that this wasn't just a pipe dream. This is actually going to come to pass, according to the TV show at least.
All right.
So Pedantry Corner, I mean, and this sort of like goes with the TV show. So you can see how Pip and Grenn and Sam caught Jon because they rode hard after him. In the book, he rides a long way and goes fast and goes slow and takes a break, and it just feels like they wouldn't actually have caught him.
I had the same thought that you did, and so if you think about the logistics of it, he rides Sam down. Sam has to get up,
2 minutes,
brush himself off,
1 minute,
go find all of the boys. Wake the boys. They've got to get up, get to the stables, get on their horses, and ride after him. That's got to be he's got to at least have a half hour to an hour's head start.
And at various points in the book, he's concerned that he's riding the horse too hard.
Right.
So it's not like he's not riding that horse hard.
Yeah. He even says that tomorrow he's going to have to go off-road. But right now it's more about speed than about, getting rid of his scent of where he's going. So the only thing I can think of is when he stops to have that moonlight snack, it must have really taken a while. He must have really indulged in that snack.
It's totally a tortoise and a hare thing, really, for me. I mean, like, the hare has just gone out the gate and he's got miles ahead, and now he's just taking it too easy, and the tortoise has caught him up, basically.
Yeah.
So. Do you say turtle?
Turtle, tortoise. Well, we say both. Yeah. I'll say either. I'll take either one.
But in that story, is it...
Oh, tortoise and the hare, yeah.
It's a tortoise and a hare, okay.
Yeah, I think so. That's what I would have said. Oh, I see oh my goodness, there's a dog on your shoulder. There's a dog on your head. Hello, Penny. Look at those ears. He's got penny-like ears. Sorry, Simon's dog has just come in to say hello.
She does that during work meetings too, like all the time. And that's what she does. She jumps on the bed behind me and then stands on the chair and pulls me back so she can sort of lick my face.
She wants to be able to see. I was thinking... that's some especially poor planning that he didn't think to eat before he left.
Yeah, I mean, how long had he been... Oh, man, I'm getting hungry. Is he Sam? Was it Sam for as well?
It's been at least half hour.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, news and notes. We got a letter... email. A letter? We're so old.
A letter? How old are we? We got smoke signals. Was the letter on papyrus?
We got an email from a relatively new, according to her, listener, Megan, who had a very interesting commentary on the Hound and Sansa. We were talking about pushing this until a Sansa chapter in the next book, because there aren't any more Sansa chapters in Game of Thrones, right?
Right.
We're done. But it was really interesting to read her thoughts. She makes a very good point, which is another reason that you should read the book before you watch the show, is because Sandor Clegane, the Hound, is only 27 years of age.
Yeah.
But he was played by a guy who's
He's
45.
51. He's 51 now. So
yeah, so he was in his 40s when he was playing him. And so the relationship is quite skewed by that. That age differential in the TV show is much greater than the age differential in the book.
Right.
And she also points out that they don't seem to have much in common, the Hound and Sansa.
Not at first.
But the one thing she points out is significant childhood trauma.
Right.
He certainly had that, and that is unfolding for her, and he maybe gravitates towards it as someone who can help her through it. It's a perspective that I hadn't really thought of, and I will keep it in mind going forward.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said to Megan in my email response to her, is you'd have to think growing up in Clegane's Keep, there wasn't a whole lot of love and lessons regarding how to communicate and care for others, and so that might explain.
But surely he's getting them now with Joffrey. Oh,
right, certainly. So it might explain why, he kind of bounces back and forth between trying to help her and be sweet to her, and then feeling vulnerable about doing it, and lashing out at her because he feels vulnerable. Like when he opened up about how he got his scars, and then felt vulnerable, and then lashed out at her, "If you tell anyone, I will kill you," type back and forth.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Megan. It was really interesting to get your email, and we appreciate it. Please keep in touch.
That was great. Thank you.
And Megan also said that she listened to us when she was dying of boredom at work. And I was like,
I liked your response about that.
I'll take what we can get.
She had said she was listening because she's brushing up on A Song of Ice and Fire in preparation for Winds of Winter, and I said that was one of the pitches that I made to Simon when I was proposing this podcast, is for that exact demographic. And Simon responded and said that people dying of boredom is also one of our demographics.
Because I read that email today, I do remember that, but I don't remember you ever making that pitch to me about the timing of this.
Well, that was nearing 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
That was summer of 2019, so it was a year and a half ago.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. So in conclusion, we again continue to see Jon making dumb mistakes. Every Jon chapter, he does something really stupid, and wiser heads bring him back to reality.
Yeah.
He's a broken record.
He is indeed. It might get a little monotonous at some point if it continues this way.
Yeah. So big thanks to Sam and to the boys and to Sir Jeor, who, he could have handled this very differently. Sorry.
Lord Commander.
Sir Jorah, you see, that's the problem.
Yep. It is.
And thanks to the old bear, Lord Jeor Mormont, who could have handled this very differently, but I think he handled it perfectly to keep Jon on board.
Yeah. And it looks like Mormont's going to gather up the troops from an already understaffed Castle Black and ride beyond that 700-foot tall wall that they have that spans the entire continent, and ride north into whatever unknown they're about to ride into.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could?
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a great idea to me.
Well, actually, one of the things you should do as a leader, I think, is risk assessment. And one of the things that could go wrong is that the Night's Watch could be effectively wiped out.
Right.
Leaving the wildlings and the others to scale the wall at their leisure.
Absolutely solid point. At the very, very least, don't go yourself, because you're the Lord Commander. And if they get wiped out, you're the one who has to figure out how to handle that. If you go and you get wiped out, then you've got complete chaos beyond that issue.
You and Maester Aemon, you stay put, you write the letters, and he attaches them to the ravens, demanding help immediately because the Night's Watch has been wiped out.
Right. Yes.
By something, we don't know what, but we're clearly going to need some help.
There's a whole bunch of guys with blue eyes out in the field out there.
Yeah. Many of them wearing black, which we think is a disguise.
Anyway, maybe we're wrong. Maybe it'll all work out beautifully, and they'll find Benjen and march back victorious.
Yeah. Let's hope. All right, well, let's draw a line under this. Thank you for listening. As always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter at GhostHarrenhall, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
And if you please wouldn't mind going out and leaving us a 5-star rate or a really nice review, we would greatly appreciate that. It would really help us get the word out, and we'd be thankful for that.
Yeah. Thank you for your company.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.